High school grad, get out of here already.
Today is the inauguration ceremony for the new company president, but when the department manager, Matt, spotted me, he came rushing over tensely. Matt, was there any prior notice about high school grads being prohibited from attending today? When I tried to argue, he just laughed disdainfully.
You think we're going to send out company-wide notices just for you? All right, just get out of here already.
I see. I left the hotel venue and entered a nearby cafe, waiting for the appropriate time. A few tens of minutes later, my smartphone rang. Thomas, hi.
It's not hi. Where are you right now?
I'm at a cafe near the venue. Matt ordered me to leave.
Geez. Anyway, just come back here right away.
I gulped down my coffee and headed back to the hotel venue once more. So, actually, my name is Alex. I'm 35 years old. I work as a regular employee at a major electrical manufacturer. One day, at the company where I work, it was decided that there would be a change of president. It's a common occurrence in large corporations for the founder, who is elderly, to resign, and for their son to succeed them. As Thomas, the new president, had already been a director and vice president within the company, and was well liked among the employees, the succession was relatively positively received by the staff. As a result, the inauguration ceremony for the new president became a grand event, with not only business partners and presidents of similar industries invited, but also all employees. Of course, as one of the employees, I headed to the hotel venue to attend the inauguration ceremony for the new president, but at the entrance, I bumped into Matt, the department manager from the same department. I had a bad feeling inside, and that feeling turned out to be spot on. As soon as Matt saw my face, he smirked condescendingly and said,
Alex, I can't believe you managed to come here looking so shabby. Talk about thick-skinned, huh? That's what we say about guys like you.
I've gotten used to being on the receiving end of such sarcasm and snide remarks. Matt often flaunts the fact that he attended a prestigious university and regularly looks down on those with less education, such as high school graduates. As a result, his treatment towards me as a high school graduate was terrible. Being accused or insulted by him was an everyday occurrence. Well, I'm sorry. Indeed, I don't own custom-tailored suits like Matt. I mostly have suits from the suit section of department stores, all bought at discounted prices. However, I regularly send them for dry cleaning and iron them to smooth out any wrinkles. Even though I made sure not to appear embarrassingly shabby to others. Even then, I don't think I look so shabby as to stand out among the other employees passing through the entrance. Well, I know that any counter-argument I make will be returned 100-fold, so it's best to just let it slide. I quickly apologized and tried to pass by him, but at that moment,
Hey, where do you think you're going? There will be plenty of high-status individuals at the president's inauguration ceremony, you know. There's no way an uncultured, poor high school graduate like you should be allowed in. You're out of place here, so just leave already.
Saying so, Matt firmly waved his hand as if to drive away something dirty. It seemed like he was in a bad mood that day, as he was persistently bothering me more than I anticipated. Of course, it's a well-known fact that all employees have the right to attend the inauguration ceremony of the new president. Even if it's an order from my immediate superior, I can't just immediately comply with it. Prohibiting high school graduates from attending was not mentioned in the employee newsletter distributed beforehand. Upon hearing that, Matt smirked and said,
Obviously. In a big corporation like ours, there's only one idiot high school graduate like you. Why would we bother making a special announcement just for you? Ignorant fools like you would only tarnish our company's reputation. So just leave already.
But I tried to continue my rebuttal, but he showed no signs of listening whatsoever.
Hey, how desperate are you to attend? Are you just here for the dinner? This is why poor, regular employees like you are so unfortunate. There's no seat for you here, so go home now and eat some cheap and tasteless food.
It seemed like he really didn't want me to go inside under any circumstances. I asked for confirmation one last time. Am I correct in understanding that your statement "go home" is to be taken as a direct order?
Of course. Don't make me repeat myself. It's not a place for a high school grad like you.
Matt stated that firmly. As one of the employees, I was eager to attend the inauguration ceremony for the new president. However, I couldn't force my way through after being ordered by my immediate superior. I understand. I will comply with the order. With those words, I turned back, and he watched me leave with a triumphant expression.
You don't even have to bother coming to the company anymore. Useless people like you make no difference, whether you're here or not.
Listening carefully to those words, I left the hotel venue. Then I entered a nearby cafe and quickly grabbed a simple dinner. Feeling hungry as time passed, and to ensure I wouldn't miss any important communication, I decided to stay relatively close to the hotel. I ordered a hot coffee and spaghetti napolitan, then settled into my seat to take a breather. Matt was incredibly persistent and insulting today. Perhaps he was feeling uplifted due to the inauguration ceremony of the well-respected new president. I'm used to being ridiculed for being a high school graduate, but just because my educational background is low, I highly doubt I've ever caused any trouble at work. Despite the frustration, I've been putting in years of effort to prove myself through my achievements. However, I've been realizing that overturning Matt's mindset is much more difficult than I initially thought. Since I was 5 years old, I've been living alone with my mother. After my biological father disappeared, she raised me single-handedly ever since. My mother, who became pregnant with me at the age of 20, got married without any work experience. So, even though she had to raise me alone, it wasn't easy for her to find a well-paying full-time job. While juggling part-time jobs, she saved money to ensure I could pursue my education as much as possible. However, when I was 17 years old, the strain took its toll on her health, and she became unable to work. I understood from a young age that we didn't have the money for me to attend a university, so while others around me were becoming university students as though it's a given, I had to accept that I would have to work as a high school graduate. My mother apologized to me many times, but I never considered myself unfortunate. I had seen firsthand all the efforts she had made for me until then. Now it's my turn. I want to be able to support my mom. That's what I've been thinking. After graduating from high school, I started working part-time at a nearby convenience store. As I wasn't particularly intelligent, I knew that even if I looked for work with just a high school diploma, I wouldn't find any decent job opportunities. I worked multiple part-time jobs just like my mother did before, sacrificing leisure time to work tirelessly every day. The only respite I found was occasionally learning boxing at the gym owned by the owner of one of my part-time jobs. It was because the owner said that my physique was suitable and expressed a desire to teach me. I didn't excel particularly, but it was the first time I had been deeply involved in a sport since my time in the high school club, before my mother fell ill. The sense of satisfaction from feeling stronger with every effort was enjoyable, making it my only source of pleasure. But by the time I turned 19, I couldn't afford to say such things anymore. My mother's illness worsened, and she was forced to be hospitalized. I had been diligently saving the money I earned from working, but it was simply not enough. Considering the possibility of a long hospital stay in the future, I realized that I needed even more money. After that, I took on even more work and quit boxing. I worked outside every day except for sleep and meal times, but it still wasn't nearly enough. Out of desperation, I eventually found myself turning to gambling. At the age of 20, I started spending my free time at the horse racing track. There were times when I won and times when I lost, but overall, I was winning more often. Gradually, the idea of working seriously started to seem foolish to me. Should I just quit all my jobs and devote myself entirely to horse racing? One day, as I began to entertain such unstable thoughts, I went to the racetrack as usual. Having conducted thorough analysis with my own methods, I bought my bets with confidence and took my seat. As the race began, it unfolded just as I had anticipated, and there was no suspenseful moment that made my palms sweat. Amidst the crowd shouting loudly with excitement, I found myself strangely calm. Despite being in dire financial straits, I should have been more anxious. Perhaps I had a strange confidence that said, "I can do this." Then suddenly, the person sitting next to me caught my attention. While most of the spectators stood up, shouted, and cheered, only the person next to me and I remained seated, hardly moving at all. That's why, for some reason, I couldn't help but be intrigued by that person. Glancing briefly at him, I saw a man in his late 20s to early 30s, wearing an expensive-looking suit and his hair neatly styled. To be honest, he seemed completely out of place in the surroundings. He didn't seem like he was in dire need of money, so I couldn't help but wonder why he was there in the first place. Was he simply enjoying horse racing as a hobby, regardless of the prize money? Or perhaps he was amused by us, looking down on us as we tried to make money through gambling. His true intentions were completely inscrutable, even as I observed him. Then our eyes met. Whoa, no, I must have stared too much. Feeling awkward, I quickly averted my gaze. However, the man smiled warmly and started a conversation.
Hello. It's my first time here, and I'm not quite sure what to expect. Did I seem out of place?
Despite appearing older and seemingly more well-off than me, I was surprised by how humble the man seemed. And before I knew it, I found myself opening up to the older man I had just met, which surprised me even more. Then we hit it off and talked until we ran out of betting tickets. The conversation mainly revolved around horse racing, my unique analysis methods, and my feelings about horse racing, all seemingly trivial matters. However, since they were topics I couldn't discuss with people in my personal life, such as my mother or friends, I felt a great sense of relief. Being aware that we would never meet again allowed me to speak candidly and freely. I thought that would be the end of it, but several hours after parting ways at the racetrack, I unexpectedly encountered the man again in a surprising manner. The hometown where I've lived isn't exactly known for its safety. It's the kind of rural town where you might expect to see characters straight out of retro TV shows, rough-looking youngsters who wouldn't seem out of place in a gang. I have always had a good physique and a somewhat intimidating appearance since birth, so I have never been a victim of such incidents myself. But as I was leaving the racetrack and heading to the nearest station, I spotted a salaryman being mugged. Honestly, while I'd rather not get involved in any trouble. Seeing such a clear incident unfold in front of me makes it impossible for me to just ignore it. "What are you doing? I'll call the police." In response to my voice, the attention of the thugs naturally turned towards me.
"You got a problem, punk. Beat it."
Dodging the thug's punch, I swiftly countered with a punch aimed at a vulnerable spot, knocking him out cold in no time. Even though it had been years since I quit boxing, taking down a few thugs was like a walk in the park for me, thanks to my experience in the ring.
I'm saved. Thank you very much.
I realized that the person who said that to me was the man I had talked to at the racecourse earlier, and I was truly surprised. Of course, the person seemed quite surprised as well. He seemed extremely grateful to me and invited me for a drink as a token of appreciation. We entered a nearby bar, and when he gave me his business card, I recognized him as a director of a major corporation that even I was familiar with. Although our conversation flowed smoothly and I felt a sense of camaraderie developing, I couldn't shake the feeling that our worlds were fundamentally different. However, the time spent with that person, who was so approachable and made no distinction in class or age, was incredibly enjoyable and didn't make me feel the difference in our backgrounds or ages at all. Before I knew it, we had become drinking buddies, and since then, we have occasionally kept in touch and shared drinks together. Balancing multiple part-time jobs gradually wore me down, and I was plagued by a slight anxiety about whether it was okay to entrust my life to horse racing. During this time, my personal life was falling apart, but whenever I was with him, I could forget about the hardships. On one particular day, something happened. As usual, while drinking, we were engaged in casual conversation when he brought up something unbelievable.
Would you consider joining our company?
I couldn't believe my ears. I was momentarily taken aback by the literal meaning of those words, but as someone from the bottom rung of society, I couldn't fathom being invited to such a prestigious company, no matter how close we were. I thought it might have been a prank due to the drinking session, or perhaps I misheard. However, it seemed that neither of those was the case, and he genuinely seemed to be serious about inviting me to the company. No, wait a moment. As I mentioned before, I only have a high school diploma and no experience as a full-time employee. I appreciate your sympathy and understanding of my financial struggles, but I don't think I can be of any help. I declined, saying so.
I do value you as a drinking buddy, that's for sure. But I don't think it's wise to mix business with our friendship.
However, he made it clear. After that, he talked to me about the business acumen he found in our conversations. As a high school graduate, I couldn't possibly have any knowledge of business. No matter how much I trust my drinking buddy, I couldn't accept it at all. That's what I thought. However, that person said the following.
When we first met, I was at the racetrack out of curiosity, but I was feeling quite overwhelmed by the difficulty of achieving results in that environment. And then you said this to me.
You want a tip? For me, I guess it's about not trying too hard to make money. When you buy while thinking about making a profit, impure farts interfere and you can't make proper predictions. So, I believe in doing it calmly. Even if the immediate returns are small, it's more beneficial in the long run.
I had studied business management extensively, but at that moment, I realized that I hadn't figured out how to reconcile with my own heart.
Honestly, I had forgotten that I even said such a thing. Moreover, being expected to have business acumen based on just that one chance event felt like pressure to me.
Management isn't just about knowledge, it's about instinct. And you undoubtedly have that. Of course, It's okay to say what you can't do, and I'm not asking you to dive into management right away. For now, I'd like you to gain experience in sales, and then see how you feel about our work. And if you come to feel that you want to stay with us and contribute more, eventually I hope you'll consider joining our management team and helping us out.
He said that. In all honesty, this conversation made me very happy and grateful. I still needed a lot of money to cover my mother's hospital bills. But honestly, I was reaching my limits with the exhaustion of working nonstop every day. But I couldn't afford not to earn. I wonder if I could hit the jackpot in horse racing. I couldn't help but feel incredibly anxious about how I was going to live on while entertaining such a dream-like idea. So, regardless of how it came about, the opportunity to become a full-time employee at a major corporation felt like a dream come true. However, being a high school graduate remained the biggest source of anxiety for me. However, that person sensed my anxiety and said to me,
That diploma stuff is garbage. I only graduated from a technical high school myself.
So I made up my mind. And once I made that decision, I've been striving for 12 years to live up to those expectations. This marked the beginning of my encounter with President Thomas. As I finished eating my spaghetti and took a sip of coffee, my phone rang. "Hi, Thomas." As soon as I called, he answered with a flustered tone.
It's not high. Where are you right now?
Thomas and I are still drinking buddies even after joining the company. Since he got married 10 years ago, we've been getting along well as families. So, I think I have a pretty good understanding of the atmosphere in his personal life, but I've never seen him so flustered before. I'm at a cafe near the hotel. As I emailed earlier, I was ordered by manager Matt to leave because there's no seat for a high school graduate, so I left. Upon hearing my words, Thomas sighed in a somewhat relieved manner.
It's refreshing in a way. Or rather, what can I say? It's good to be obedient to your immediate superior. But from today onwards, things are going to be different, right? You could have said something like, I'm a director now, so I can follow your orders, couldn't you?
Certainly. It's as he said. As promised when I joined the company, I've become a director at the same time Thomas takes on the role of becoming the president. Matt, who has been making sarcastic remarks to me all this time, will now become my subordinate. But just because the position changes doesn't mean I will change myself, so I couldn't muster the courage to be overly assertive. Despite saying that, I couldn't deny feeling a bit eager to surprise and humble Matt while waiting at a nearby cafe in anticipation of Thomas' call.
Today is also your inauguration speech as a director and the vice president. After you finish your coffee, come back immediately.
Thomas instructed me, prompting me to return to the hotel right after finishing my coffee. The expression on Matt's face when I was introduced as the new director was almost comical, even from a distance. Nobody in the company knew about the relationship between Thomas and me, so the venue was filled with shock when I was introduced. However, Matt's reaction stood out among them all. Although he didn't know, he seemed to regret his recent verbal attacks on me, looking pale and shaken. I wasn't planning any power play or revenge, but I hoped this incident would make him reflect on his actions. While it's undeniable that I, as a high school graduate, was the one who suffered the most humiliation, it was clear that other employees, including those with lower educational backgrounds than Matt, were also experiencing discomfort. As the vice president and director, I want to contribute not only in terms of business acumen, as expected by Thomas, but also in creating an environment where all employees can work comfortably regardless of their educational background. I believe that, precisely because I'm a high school graduate, there are things I can uniquely bring to the table. Afterward, Matt, the department head, was found guilty of obstructing my inauguration ceremony with selfish lies and was accused of harassment by several employees. As for me, I didn't involve myself personally and only testified about what I had experienced. I chose not to participate in a meeting to decide on his punishment. As a result, he was transferred to a regional factory and demoted to a security guard position, which were quite severe penalties. Despite his high capabilities, I hope this serves as a lesson for him to realize the importance of how one approaches their work, rather than being judged solely based on education and background. As for me, I'm still a rookie as a director. I'm learning the ropes from my predecessor, Thomas, and gradually expanding my capabilities. Whether I'm a director or a vice president, my education level as a high school graduate remains the same. However, there's no longer anyone who belittles me for it. I believe it's because people are now more interested in how I approach my work rather than my education level. So, I'm determined to continue giving my best without feeling ashamed of my education level, and do everything I can with my current abilities. What a nostalgic feeling. This day, after finishing our greetings to clients, Thomas and I were driving in the car. As we passed by a familiar horse racing track, we decided to make a nostalgic visit.
I never imagined back when we first met here that we'd end up working together like this.
His words resonated deeply with me. You're right. Back then, he mentioned that I had business acumen, but what I'm truly grateful for is how he picked me up when I was at my lowest. I can't thank him enough. Thanks to him, my mother was able to undergo her hospitalization smoothly, and her major surgery was successful. Now, she's living healthily and happily. Even recently, when she heard that I was appointed as a director, she cried tears of joy. She understood well the efforts I had made. In the end, both of us lost that day. There was no problem in visiting the racetrack with nostalgic feelings, but knowing that he had encouraged me to bring my horse racing method to the company, I felt a desire to win since I had made the effort to come. I'm sorry, we lost. Upon my spontaneous apology, Thomas said,
I don't care about making profits. That's not what matters. I value nothing more than a commitment to facing things honestly and sincerely in front of us.
Whether it was because he sensed my feelings or not, Thomas continued to reassure me, promising to help me however he could. Now, I want to devote myself wholeheartedly to my work so that I can be of help to Thomas,